Okay, hi everybody. I am so excited to come to you with the third and small installment of The Power of Journaling. I'm Anna K. Morris, mindset and journaling coach, and I'm thrilled to have Stephanie Affinito and Angela Briones here talking about how journaling has helped their lives and specifically helped them to find their voice. And I love it. I was just sharing with you guys that I did not realize when I set this all up because y'all don't know each other. You never, have been in a class with me. I didn't realize that y'all both have podcasts. So how perfect that we're talking
Yeah.
about how journaling has helped you find your voice. So I'm going to kick it over to you guys. So if you'd share your name, where you live, and how journaling has kind of helped you find your voice. So why don't we start with Angela, since you're alphabetical?
Okay. I'm Angela Briones. I live in Texas. I live about an hour north, in Harker Heights, Texas,
Yeah.
about an hour north of Austin. What do I do for a living? Was the second
Yeah,
question?
sure.
I don't remember. I need more coffee. I work a 9 to 5,
Uh-huh.
just typical 9 to 5. Outside of
Okay.
that, I do have a podcast, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's called The Gay Podcast for Everyone. It is a
Mhm.
space where hopefully the LGBTQ plus community of mine can kind of have a conversation with our family and our friends to create a more understanding space, a space where we can ask questions, where we can learn from one another and really empathize with one another. I'm kind of a big believer in having those hard, awkward conversations, because I think that gets us through to the next step. So that's what the podcast
100%.
is about. And that's really where I focus my creative energy right now.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and we have worked together a few different times, and I love that
Mhm.
you were somebody that journaled before we met,
Yeah.
and then you shared with me, you're like, and that's not what you teach. So I really wanted you to
Right.
share a little bit more about what you meant by that, because I think that
Okay.
there's this misconception of like what journaling is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think you had a perception, and then we maybe kind of blew that up.
Yeah, totally. Because I defined two things differently. I defined the morning pages as they are
Mhm.
in the book, The Artist's Way with Julia
Yeah.
Cameron. And that's how I met you, is in a Artist's
Mhm.
Way workshop. And
Mhm.
then there was journaling, which to me was totally different. To me, it was like
Mhm.
the Artist's Way morning pages was, 3 pages stream of consciousness. Don't even think about it. Just write whatever comes to mind. I got to take out the trash. I got to go pick up the dog, whatever it is, things that didn't even matter. And then when I started working with you, it was more like you can take that same space, because for me, the Artist Way in the morning pages was like this way of showing you that you can show up every day for something and do something every day consistently, make it a habit. And over time, you have this piece of work almost, like you filled an entire notebook. And I have notebooks
Yeah.
galore of things that I've finished. And there are times where as a creator, I'm like, oh, I need to finish something. And I have
Yeah.
proof, like if I show up every day, I can do it. So then
Yeah.
I was like, well, if I just show up to a different page every day, I can do it too.
Yeah.
So when I was working with you, like you kind of showed me that like you could ask yourself a question, you could kind of guide it more, you could kind
Yeah.
of be more intentional about the time you're spending with those 3 pages,
Yeah.
and really get to like the why and the block and what's stopping you. And it gave me more direction rather than just, I'm going to take out the trash, I'm going to do this. It gave me more of like, okay, this is what I'm hung up on, this is what
Why?
I'm afraid of,
Yeah.
what's going on, let's talk about it. Like there's the why and and just keep going deeper. It allowed me to go deeper
Yeah.
by just asking a more intentional question.
So by having you go deeper, then what did that look like in your life? Like what started to shift as a result of going deeper?
Oh, I feel like I'm still kind of in it right now. I feel like it's allowing me to be scared. It's like, okay, you're gonna be scared,
Yeah.
but you're gonna keep going. Like it doesn't
Like
matter.
the
Be
book that you
scared
sent me this
and
morning, right? Like the
what's
book
that?
that you sent this morning.
Yes, yeah.
Have you
Keep
Stephanie,
Going.
keep
Yeah,
going.
the book is
Literally
called Keep
the name
Going.
of it.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I had it here, but I don't. But you know, it just allowed me to like have the space of like, okay, you're going to be scared, but it doesn't matter. Like, just what's one thing you can do today? And sometimes that is the page. Like, it's like, okay, what are we going to focus on today?
Yeah.
Don't look at the next step. Don't look at the big picture. Just
No.
today, right now. And it just kind of helps me kind of like focus and not get scattered with all the other things that my brain is thinking, aside from, nobody's going to listen. You're not good enough. What all the negative stuff, I can work that out in my morning pages. I can let it be. I can get all that stuff out, and then I can just really focus.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's every single day for me. So yes, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're nodding. I can just see
Yeah.
your head going, Stephanie, you look like one of the bobbleheads that they put in the cars. It's like, so I'm gonna have you introduce yourself because I really want to hear what you have to say as well.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm Stephanie. I live in upstate New York, and for almost the past 20 years or so, I have been a literacy teacher educator at a local university and have spent my whole career working with teachers and their students on how to unlock the power of reading and writing. Um,
Mm,
Lately, I've been really leaning into why that is so important. So my career is focused so much on how to get kids to read and write, how to help them, how to help adults carve out that time. But now I'm really leaning into, why does it matter? What does it do for
mm,
our physical health, our emotional
mm,
health, our cognition, our mental wellness?
yeah.
Because I first came to notebooking as a kid, well, actually as a teen, well, definitely as a kid, I used to walk around with stacks of notebooks and my favorite pens and pencils. But as a kid, I had a really rough time as a teenager. I had a chronic illness that really kept me grounded and home, in and out of hospitals, doctors'
Mm,
appointments, medical centers, and writing became my outlet. That's
mhm,
where, as you mentioned, Angela, that's where I wrote what I was afraid of. That's what I wrote, what I wished I could be doing, and all of the emotions that I kept bottled up inside. The paper gave me a safe space to be able
uh-huh,
to say them because I didn't
mhm,
quite know what to do with everything that I was feeling. And so reading and writing together actually were my lifelines as a kid. They stayed in my life, fairly consistently, and then reemerged again in my 40s as lifelines again as I kind of battle some new challenges. And the pages are always waiting. They're just always there. They're always patient. They don't judge, they don't evaluate, and they just help me breathe a little bit deeper after those couple of pages are done so that, yeah, you can just kind of get on with it and keep going.
I love what you share, Stephanie, because I think that it really can be an outlet if you're wanting to do things, but you're like physically unable, right?
Mhm.
That it really can be like a place of solace, is what I heard.
Yes, absolutely.
I was very opposite. Like I was a swimmer, I swam 6 hours a day. To have me sit still and write, I hated. And so, as a very active person, I think that's why, Angela, I teach it the way I do, because I really, really, really want results. It's why I love, and I think it's so important, Stephanie, to have that like that non-judgment. And my
Mhm.
judgment still very much shows up, but it gets fatigued because I teach 3 pages. By the end of the third page, I'm tired of my judgment. I'm tired of my inner critic, something else I call God, the universe, whatever, um, nature, whoever starts to show up. The kindness, the forgiveness, like the nectar, the sweetness, that like unconditional love. Like you would never watch a child learning to walk and say, like, what are you doing? You would never talk to a child the way our inner critic can talk to us, right? And so for me, it was quite the opposite, being probably overly active. It took me until my late 20s, early 30s when I had a business coach who taught me how to journal. She totally like Jedi mind tricked me and had me commit to journaling every single day for 6 months. And as somebody that like never, ever, ever stopped, it was hard. But I can see like that I was lacking balance. And I think it's really about that balance, right? Like you didn't have the balance with the activity. So you
Right.
got to play out the activities in your writing.
Yes.
Whereas I was overly active and never like reflective, you know? And so it gave me that opportunity. So I'd love to hear more about like that, concept of like allowing it to like land on the page, like because it can be really active, but it can also be really, really peaceful and quiet. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it depended on, or it depends still,
Mm-hmm.
um, where I am, right? And how I show up to the notebook. Some
Yeah.
days
Yeah.
are just complete negativity on the page so that I can
Yes.
find. Other days are more productive and proactive, and I'm getting all sorts of ideas that are just
Yeah.
suddenly coming up on the page and helping me figure
Yes.
things out. Uh,
Yes.
and it's that mindset, I think, has been the hardest thing for me to cultivate, but that I keep working at, is that I have to remind myself to show up to the page expecting something great to come out of it, right? Even if it's
Oh
just
yeah.
leaving the bad
Mm.
stuff behind, if I expect an answer to come, if I expect that idea to come, I usually by the end of those couple of pages will find it. But
Yeah.
it was training my mind to
Mm-hmm.
think that those pages would be worth it in the beginning. Um, and they usually always are.
You know, and just to piggyback off of that, I just was writing it down. I have found, because some days I'm like, what did I even get out of that? Right. Which is where I really find that people stop. Right. And that's why I love teaching groups, because it's in a group that kind of can help. I use Insight Timer for meditation.
Mhm.
Like I love that it shows that I've consecutively meditated 61 days. Like my dream is to have a journaling app where like it will be like, you journaled 100 days in a row, like high five, like maybe I send you a journal as, you know, as a congratulations, but that's a different day. But it's what I find when I do that, when I'm like, what was even the point of that? The point was that I stayed with the habit. It's that I kept my integrity to my word, and my word is that I journal every morning. And the more I can be integrous around my word, and I'm somebody that I can count on for myself. Because you guys, I don't know if you do this, like other people can count on me, no problem. But can I count on myself?
Yeah.
That is really hard. And that's why I love journaling, is because it doesn't let me off the hook. Yeah, Angela.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with what both of you just said. And I'm just like, I wanted to jump in because Stephanie, you're so right about the fact that like when you're writing the 3 pages at some point, you know, these aha moments come, and they're not all the time, but they surprise you. And then when that happens, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like this huge moment. I tried recently, I tried to not journal in the morning. I was like, let me just take that space and do something else.
Oh yeah, how'd it go?
It did not work. It did not work for me
I'm like,
because
don't tell people that it
no,
didn't work. This is not how it's
no,
powerful.
no.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I tried it very recently.
Yeah.
It did not work at all
Yeah. It
because
doesn't.
I found that like, and like you said, Anna, I've been doing this for so many years, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just
I mean, we're all
see
like
if it's
veterans on this.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, let me just see if it's really this.
I
And for
wonder, I do
me,
the same
yes,
thing sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yes, it
And
is.
so
And
what was
I
it like?
realized
You weren't journal, like what was it like?
I was
Should I ask your
lost.
girlfriend?
Like I
Should I ask your
needed that
partner?
space to I needed that space to go to. It's almost like an anchor
Mm,
now. Do you know what I
mm.
mean? I
It
needed
is.
that space to go to. It's like you're in the dock, like you're like you're getting anchored, you know.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it felt like to me. And I was like, if I don't have that, and I don't have that space, and I don't have that place to go to write out all the things that, like Stephanie, like you mentioned, the ideas that you're working on, or the ideas that come to you. If I don't do that, I don't have that place where an idea is going to come to me, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It
you
totally
know?
does.
Total sense.
Yeah. So I was a competitive swimmer. I swam 3 hours before school and 3 hours after school, my whole career. So 6 years, 6 days a week. And I remember, so I finally like checked off the box, like one state champion in a race. And then swimming ended. And it ended like cold turkey. It was like done, over. And the feedback from my teachers, because it was like pulling the plug on journaling, essentially the same thing. Because I had 3 hours of daydreaming. They couldn't get me to focus. That last semester of senior year, they were like, who are you? Like, you're not here at all. And I wasn't, because I didn't have the space to like just dream. And now that's what I do in my pages. Like, I just play around with different things. And like, I'll even say to myself, wouldn't it be fun if I had this? And then I'm like, well, what would that be like? And I'll actually like just dream about it and maybe write about what that would be like. And by the end, I'm like, no, I actually don't want that. And it's so fun, because I think that we can sometimes get hooked on like seeing other people have things or do things, and we think that we want that. And in my journal, I get to like explore if I do, or what's driving that. Like, why do I think I want, like I become my own therapist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Books are
just
therapy.
like what you just said too, of, with the comparison thing, a lot of times I'll go to my pages and kind of pull myself back to me.
Yeah.
It's like I'll throw that aside and go, okay, no, where am I?
Yeah.
Where do I need to be? Where's my lane? I'm not going to worry about all this other stuff.
Yep. Literally what I wrote
So
about this morning. I'm like, put the blinders on, girl.
yeah.
Stephanie, you were going to jump in and say something.
Oh, I was just saying, I definitely think of my morning page notebook as my therapist. 100%.
Yes. And it's always there. Like, I don't have to book an
Yes.
appointment. It is free. Like,
Yes.
once you buy the journal and the pen, you are free, right? And it's just always there. I had the experience recently where like I was so infuriated in a situation. It was like the middle of the day. I was visiting my dad in Florida. Something had happened on the phone, and I was irrationally angry. When you're like, what happened and how I feel are a mismatch. I was like, I shouldn't be this mad. Like, what's actually going on? And I had already journaled that morning. I've already done my pages. But I was like, I think the only way I can figure this out is just to grab that journal and get going. And luckily, my dad took a nap at that time. So there was some quiet time, and I did. And I was like, oh, I'm making it about something from my childhood that's totally triggered by being around my dad. Oh, got it. No problem. It was like gone.
Yeah. Well, and also, when I mentioned that I tried to set it aside, the reason I did that is because I was trying to convince myself, I was like, well, I need that time to do the creative stuff. So I was like, I don't have time. So I've got to find time. Well, I'm going to put my pages aside. And then I was like, oh no,
I love it.
I have to have this to do the creative stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just, I just needed to work that out,
Yeah.
It's a space that you really do. I need it.
Yeah, I do too. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I know when we were traveling around the world, Derek and I travel differently. And I'm like, let's just sit at a coffee shop and meet people. And he's like, let's go make a list of all the things that there are to see, and then take pictures there and then put it in a photo album. And I'm like, okay. So I was up at like 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning going on these like tours. So no morning pages for almost a year. And I remember when I look back on that trip, that people will say to me like, oh, wow, that must have been so amazing. I look back on that trip and remember feeling pretty crazy. Like, I felt so, I was not rooted because I didn't have a home either. So like I didn't have a home. And when I would feel my craziest was when I would start journaling again. Because I'm like, I can't, this is not okay.
Rooted is a good word.
Yeah.
That really, I think that really defines the journaling and the morning pages for me.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
But I think it can really become your home. It's how, like, especially traveling, I find that it's even more important to have that journal in your bag.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have if you travel and journal or not journal.
I still take it with me if I do travel. I still do my morning pages. My family knows, like usually they're with me if we travel, and they know that I will get up a little bit earlier than them. And when they get up, they'll say, "Did you do your pages? Did you do your writing?" Like I've been doing it so long, they know that it's part of my thing.
Yeah.
You know?
How about you, Stephanie? Same.
Yeah, they don't see me do it too often. I'm a very early riser. I love the 4:30 a.m. It's quiet, my coffee, it's dark, no one is around. And so they see the stacks of notebooks everywhere.
Yeah.
They don't actually see me writing, but they know a day without reading and writing doesn't happen all that much in mom's life. They're pretty used to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. My 4-year-old has become very interested in, I will get up earlier than they do, but it's like they can smell me. So they're usually up within like 10 or 15 minutes. And Derek, knows that he wants to be married to me when I journal. So he's happy to take the kids. But Jack is always coming. He's like, "Oh, mommy's doing her writing. Oh, you need privacy. Okay, mommy, can we bring you a coffee?" Like and I'm like, "Jack, when you learn how to write, then this is going to be something that you can do too, to help you feel how you feel. And it can help you to figure out how you're feeling and whether or not that feels good, or if you want it to feel different, and what you can do about it." So we're starting like the conversation early, right? Dean just likes to play with my pens and try to draw on the walls.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. Your time is so precious, and I love that you've given it to talking about this topic that is so important. I think my time's up. I don't know if you can hear the screaming child in the background. But awesome. I don't know where Derek is, but I think I'm gonna have to go get him. So thank you.
Happy to
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah. And just, actually, you know what? He just came in, so he's fine. Would you all please tell us the name of your podcast so that people want to find you? Angela, I know that you said it's the Gay for Everyone podcast on
Gay
all
podcast for everyone.
Yeah, the Gay podcast for everyone. Yeah, and it's talking specifically about like conversations with family and friends about being LGBTQ plus. Anything else you want to add about that? Did I hit it all?
No, I think that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. And then Stephanie, how about you?
My podcast is called Get Literate, and it's a podcast about all things books and reading, notebooks and writing, and everything in between to make life better, whatever better means for each of us.
Yeah. And then what is your website name? Is it Get Literate or Stephanie?
It's alitlife.com.
Yes, it's so good. I love everything about your web. I mean, it's so good. Like I've literally sent it to Derek because he does my web design stuff. And I'm like, can you just like use this as whatever template you need? He was like, that's not what you. I was like, calm down. It's something like that.
Oh, thank you so much. Because it's all homegrown by someone who doesn't know what she's doing. So
it's so good. It's so valuable.
Awesome.
I mean, hours and days on your website. So it's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I gotta check it out. I'm inspired by both of you now.
Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love
Likewise.
it. Yeah. And for anybody interested in learning how to journal or reinvigorating an old journaling practice, or just having some accountability if you already journal, I'm teaching the power of journaling. We're going to start January 15th. It's a 4-week class. Live classes also recorded, so you can listen to it at your leisure, and it's $2.99 and on my website. So annakmorris.com. I think that's it, you guys. Thank you so much. I love you both.
Thanks, Anna.
I'm going to stop recording right now.